Hello, and welcome to the channel for those who want to excel at work, exams, and languages. Today, we're going to talk about something that everyone needs because it's how to deal with distraction. But which kind of distraction? All the distraction that comes from the outside world. So, for example, notifications, emails, phone calls, messages from people that you need to manage or you need to work with. How do you do it? I've been working a lot with people, managing groups, managing teams, coordinating myself with others, and this is something amazing. But there's something very risky in this, and it is that if we start working as would come natural to do, we will end up not having time to take care of our projects, of the things that we actually need to do. We will feel overwhelmed and think maybe you also have a situation in which that happens, in which you have a project, you want to go on with that project, but you keep receiving requests, emails, texts, calls, and you need to deal with all these things. So how do you do in that case? There was one day in which I realized that it was being too much for me, too many messages, too many requests. And so what did I realize? I realized that I was creating the problem. I was the problem. Why? Because I was having a reactive MO. Now, MO, for those of you that maybe are less familiar with the term, is the acronym for modus operandi, and it's used a lot in detective movies, and for those of you who know me, I love all that kind of stuff, and so I decided to call it like that. It is the way in which you operate, right? So a reactive MO is the MO in which you receive a call, you pick up. You receive an email, you check and you answer. You receive a text message, you open it. And by doing this, what happens? That you're very reactive and responsive, but there's one big problem, that you are following the rhythm and the pace of someone else, not yours. And so you end up, at the end of the day, feeling like you've done nothing of all the things that you wanted to do. So how do you face this? The solution is in the proactive MO. So having a proactive MO means working proactively so that you can avoid that situation and you can actually manage all the requests, but in a way that you choose, in the moment that you choose. And how does it work? First of all, you need to be full of initiative. So you need to understand how long these requests take you, how often they happen. So all the moments in which you usually respond to these requests. Is it something that you need to check every hour? Or is it something that you should check once a week, once a day, once every 2 days, according to the different projects, according to the different teams? That may vary. So there may be, for example, some emails that you know that every hour you need to check. Other requests could be less frequent. So maybe you have a project that you can check on every 2 days, every 3 days, every week, once every 2 weeks, it depends. But you need to have clarity about this. At that point, you need to calendarize a moment of your day or your week in which you will take care of all those requests related to that project. So you have a moment that you have actively chosen and you put it in your calendar, and that's the moment in which you're going to check all those requests. Then what can happen? That, of course, when I started doing this the first time, it was a month in which I had decided to take on board some mentees for Genius in 21 Days again, after a long time in which I hadn't had them. So my mentors, the mentors that work with me, were taking care of them. But I said, okay, you know what? This month I'm going to take on board 8 mentees, and they were all people that agreed also to record the sessions so that I could train new mentors. Amazing. The point was that I had to add 8 mentees to everything that I was already doing every day. And so I thought, okay, I need to find a solution. And that's where I created the proactive MO. And I realized that for my mentees, I needed to have a daily check in the first weeks to understand how their progress was going and how they were progressing with their goals, with their abilities, with all the techniques that we teach at Genius in 21 Days. And so that once a day was okay. the point is that I felt, okay, I can have my proactive moment, but I don't want to leave them by themselves if they really need help. Imagine you have a mentee, you want them to achieve a lot of results, they're studying, they're working, they text you, but it's not in the moment in which you should actively check their texts, and so you don't check them and they are blocked, stuck, they can't go on. Didn't want that to happen. So what did I do? I told all my mentees that I would have a moment every day in which I would check their texts and messages so that I could check their progress, their updates, respond to any request. But in case they needed something urgently, they should start their text with urgent written on top, so that at my first break, I would check that message and respond promptly. This kind of attitude prevented me from feeling overwhelmed by requests that could come at any time of the day, interrupting any activity that I was doing. This is extremely important because if you look at your day, probably there are many moments in which you act reactively, which is normal. It's our normal tendency because we see an email, we want to respond. We receive a text, we must give an answer. Someone calls us, we want to pick up. That's okay. But usually, if you have other projects that you're taking care of, it's very, very risky. While if you do it proactively, so understanding how long it takes you to take care of those things, how often, then you can put it in your calendar. And at times I have some very busy people that tell me, no, but I can't not check my emails for 1 hour. The question that I want to leave you with is this. When you have an appointment with someone, do you check your emails every second during the appointment? The answer usually is, no, Julia, that would be impolite. Exactly. So the world for 1 hour can go on without falling apart, also if you don't check your emails. If it's something urgent, tell people how to reach you. But imagine that every time in which you are taking care of your projects, that's like an appointment. It's an appointment that you have with yourself. And if you are respectful enough with other people, so that you don't check your emails during those appointments, for once, try and be respectful with yourself when you have your projects, taking care of your projects without checking your emails for 1 hour. You will see that you will start getting back in charge of your time, which is one of the most important things that give you the freedom to create the projects that you want, achieve the goals that you have, and create the results that you dream for yourself. Try, let me know how it goes, comment if you have any question, and I will be here ready to answer in my time that's dedicated for this, proactively as usual.